Hi, and welcome to another endorsement interview with the Times Editorial Board. Here today we have State Senator Frank Mrvan, of course the incumbent, a Democrat running in the 1st District. I'm Doug Ross, editorial page editor at the Times. Also in the room with us we have Bob Heiss, editor, and Brian Vernellis, videographer. Well, welcome, Frank. And we should probably begin with just a very short a bit of who you are and what's prepared you for this race.
Well, I'm Senator Frank Mrvan. It seems like I've been preparing for this race all my life. I was a precinct committeeman for many, many years, a councilman for many years. I'm a bank officer before I retired, and worked on many communities, committees. I was PTA president and church council president, and did a lot of work with the schools as a father and a parent, and on the prevailing wage and many commissions, and of course the budget committee and president of the council. And I've worked hard. I've worked hard in my community. I think if I wouldn't have been there, we would have had a lot of problems. I worked real hard to get the money for the little Calumet, probably harder than anybody else. And even at the first year when they turned us down, I had the ability, and I went to the RDA and got $6 million. And at the meeting that I was there with the representative from Voskowski's office, they asked the lawyer to read off what the goals were of the RDA, and he only read part of them, the Marquette plan, the train, and I jumped up and I says, wait a minute, you better read a little further, because I know I put an amendment in that says for economic development. So then he did, and up to that point, this saved really $6 million of loan to the Little Cal River that gave them that 1 year when they didn't get funding. And then the next year we got to $14 million, and I think that's a great accomplishment because all of Lake County benefit with flood control.
Okay. What are you most proud of during your, and when were you first elected? To the Senate?
1979, and then again in 1998. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what are you most proud of in all that time?
I'm most proud of, I've passed a lot of bills that were anti-crime. I've passed the strongest anti-felon, not felon, but sex crimes, protecting the women and children. I've done a lot to bills for good government. Felons were getting paid while they were waiting to go to jail, and when you're a felon, you can't serve and you can't collect any money. I spent a lot of time on passing bills for transparency, where the government, any money that you get, any government money, taxes, etc., you have to account for. And I helped the newspaper business by passing I've passed rather the public assets, public information, where you could get at it easier. And I passed a lot of school. I've been on the education committee for many years. I'm really proud of that on my work, of course, being in a minority, but I still got things done.
Okay. Well, of course, everybody's going to ask, so what have you done for me lately? What are you going to do now?
Well, unfortunately, many times it's a continuation. It's important that the schools are the most important thing, and I am very passionate about that. Education really has a challenge. We have our better schools. In my district, I have the best and the worst, and we have to get fair and equal funding for the schools that are very successful and those that are really working, and we can't really take money away from either one. So the challenge is we have to get some new money, and we have to get a fair and equitable assignment of funds for the students, so the students, each one gets its fair share, and the schools can prosper. Schools are very important, more important than anything else in the state of Indiana, as far as I'm concerned. Unfortunately, I'm a little too passionate about it sometimes.
Well, the problem is if you put more money for schools, you got to take it away from somewhere else. So
that's true.
Where would you take it from?
Well, the easiest thing right now would be to take it from the $2 billion that we have in the surplus. The agreement was for many, many years that $750 million was enough. And the schools that are successful, such as Munster and Carmel, Lake Central, I think they'd be satisfied with $200, $300, $400 a student more. And you can't take it away from the other schools, because that's where you have all your problems, is in the ones that are in the A's and the F, not the A's, but the D's and F's schools. In the middle, there's a lot of schools that are working out and everything's fine, but it's both ends that are in trouble. And money's the answer. And, during the session, it's not what I want to do. There's 150 people that are going to have ideas. And if someone has a good idea, you could clamp onto it and you help them and you work out with them to get it done. And it's got to be done. And it seems like there's a lot of talk even on the people that are on the budget committee, especially the chairman, feels that something has to be done. And by the way, his specific county, Hamilton, is one of them that have the same problems that Munster and Lake Central has.
Right. So,
which is a good deal in a way.
That does help.
Yes.
So one of the things that happened after the last budget was created was that, while we're on the subject of education, was creation of a new agency that Governor Pence started. So the question is, the Center for Education and Career Innovation, CC. So the question is, would you keep that agency in the budget, or what would you do to try to improve things between the board and the Reds?
I don't believe that agency is really constitutional. The Constitution says the Board of Education and the superintendent are the ones that do the education. And it's, we're creating another layer which isn't necessary. And I don't understand the governor why he did this. He controls the State Board of Education, by all the appointments are his. And it isn't necessary, and of course there's $1 million right there that we can get, because that's about what he allocated. And that was not passed by the legislature. It was a direct action by the governor. And I don't think we need it. We've always worked together with the school superintendent and the legislature. And it's always worked in the past. There's no need for that. And nothing's ever going to work unless we get together. Nothing is going to work. The state is not going to be successful unless we all work together, and that includes the working people, the education. All these things are one big ball. That's what makes a state successful.
Okay. One of the things everybody's talking about is jobs. So what do you do for job creation?
Well, jobs creation is we've got to have the best environment that we can get in the state for business. And we also have to have a trained workforce. Now, the trained workforce, I'm on the, there's a lot of work was done during the summer and last year on the Career Development Committee, Indiana Career Development Committee. It's a governor's committee, and I was on it. And we laid out where they would have, and it had about 20 people on it, all the colleges, and then the Secretary of State, Superintendent of Instructions, and they worked out where we're working so we can have schools curriculum that will match the needs of today. And it's a thing that can be changed. It's not solid, rock. It's living, breathing things where we meet all the time, and they change the curriculum. And a lot of work was put into it, and I have to commend the governor. He did a good job on it, and now we have to see if it works, and I think it will. And the other thing, of course, you need infrastructure. If you don't have those roads or the buildings all falling apart, we're not going to get anywhere. And education, is very important, because they won't come to a state that doesn't have a good education system. And in talking about that committee that you mentioned, CCI or whatever it is, I don't think that's doing a good job, because it makes it look like the governor, we're unstable and we cannot produce good education. So that committee, I think, is not going to get the effect that he wants to, and I don't think he did it on purpose, but it's negative, because when people want to move in here, they want you to have a good, stable educational system.
How did you react when the governor turned away the federal application for pre-K and early childhood education money?
I know it's the philosophy of religion. They want to be independent, but I think they should realize that that money is our money that we're going to get back. People in Indiana pay taxes, and we're having a hard time raising money for pre-K. This would have helped. It would have helped, and everybody's afraid of controls. Government isn't our enemy. They're there to help us and work with us. And if there's anything wrong, you could always leave it. And I think originally he was all for it, but then he got a lot of, I think your paper stated all the different groups that put pressure on him, and he's a great guy. I like him a lot, and I think this was something he made a mistake on. We should have taken the money, because they would have helped the kids, and that's what counts. At pre-K, 400 kids are going to have it in a 5-county area. That's nothing. That's tokenism. We need everybody. And pre-K is proven. There's 40 states that's had it for decades, and we're like fighting an old argument that's been proven wrong. Right, that you have to have pre-K.
Indiana's also one of the few states that, just a handful, that don't provide free textbooks.
We're one of 8. Well, that's something we've tried over and over again. Even I had something in on it in my early days, but it just never was considered. And hopefully now, every time there's a session, there's hope, of course. And at the end, of course, that's when we feel that it was hopeless case. But it should be done. They always complain that the kids don't take care of their books. Yeah, and that's sort of a weak argument. If they don't have up-to-date books, they're not going to have an up-to-date education. And you can't share. And I've heard where teachers go to the fax machine to run off 10, 15 pages for the day, for the day's work. That's not right. That's a third world country education. We can do better than that. We better do better than that.
Okay. You mentioned infrastructure. INDOT says we're falling behind as a state, and so how do you get the more additional funding for the roads and bridges?
Well, most funding for comes from the federal government, and also on the gasoline tax. I think we have like 55 cents or 60 cents a gallon. Now that's an awful lot. And matter of fact, we're quite a ways up there compared to some of the other states. That seems like the logical place to get it, but we're going to have to come up with something more, because we let so much work not being done that now we're way behind. It's probably going to cost us twice as much. Things like a road tax are coming up, a mileage tax are coming up, just a tax just that you have an automobile, it'll be $100 or something like that. The gasoline tax, now it's low, but it was up to $4. And that's a lot of money. It took me $50, $60 to drive back and forth to Indianapolis. So, I have to take condition that a lot of people aren't working, and that gasoline tax, that hits the people that really can't afford it that much. So something's going to have to be given there, because we cannot continue the way we're going.
Okay, Bob?
The RDA is up for renewed funding.
Mm-hmm.
Would you support that?
Yes, absolutely.
It accomplished what it
Well, matter of fact, they're sort of limited, because of the projects that it's in the bill was they still have the South Shore, but the Marquette plan. I would fund it, and quite frankly, I think my amendment that I put in there when it was first passed, that they had the ability to take care of economic development projects, and that's a broad spectrum. And we could use it. We could use that help, and we need that $10 million. There's going to be a tough fight to get it, because they're saying over there that nobody else has got any gets ready development money. So we're going to have to do a heck of united, and we're going to have to make a heck of a good presentation. And if they really care about Lake County, and sometimes I wonder, they have to give us this money so we can grow.
Well,
And they'll get it back in taxes.
Yeah, do you think Lake County gets its fair share? I mean, you've been down there, so you're, but I asked that in all these conversations.
Well, I'm not one of those that run around that say that we don't get a fair share. We get quite a bit. We may not get as much as Indianapolis, or we're, like the Hamilton County, where they have a strong Republican group. But look at the highways; they took care of them for us. They gave us money for that $14 million for the Little Cal. And if we don't get it, it's our fault. We got to fight for it harder and get more. And there's a little prejudice there. It's not as bad. And quite frankly, I think many times the politicians blame somebody else to say, well, they're doing it. But if we don't get the funds, it's our fault. We have to get the legislators.
Okay. The South Shore extension, what do you think?
Well, the South Shore extension is something that if you compare it to our neighboring state of Illinois, you see that public transportation there and the rails, they have 100 and maybe 600 times more rail than we do. It's expensive, and that's what's holding it back, I think. But if all the communities get together, and it's just like the infrastructure. If we don't spend it now, we're never going to get it. We can grow. Going south county, there's a lot of land there. We could bring people in that'll bring up the taxes, and if it brings in industry, the state is having a tough time with income tax. We need to get employment up so we get more income, and I would support it, and I do support it. But it's not going to be easy because a lot of individuals feel that they don't get any advantage from it. But the point is, if it comes in and we grow, it'll make it better for them. Their property taxes may go down, and hopefully we get I put in a bill on minimum wage. Hopefully we get a little more money than they can. It would help with the income tax.
How high would you like the minimum wage to rise to?
Well, it's at what, $7.50 now. I think. Well, I know my bill says the first year would be $8.50, and the second year would go up to $10.50. There are some cities have a minimum wage where they went up to about $15, and a couple of states were in the 14s. So we're very conservative, and it's going to be tough to get that. But once you get that $10.50, and they see how it's working, they'll go see what we could do better. But that's hard to really raise a family on that money.
Do you think you can get that bill through this session?
I think so. I'm not the only one who has it in. I know there's a couple of representatives have it in on the Republican side, which they're most likely to get a hearing. But I'm just going to, jump in and be a co-author or co-sponsor, and it helps. And like I say, we got to work together. And if we don't have business that's prospering, we're not going to have jobs. And if we don't have jobs, nobody's going to be helped. So people can't seem to get that in their heads that everybody's got to prosper. But there's some are so stubborn, they get this fanatical political ideas that this isn't good, that's no good, I'm not going with those people, I'm not going with that. We're a state, and just like the United States, if we don't work together, we die together, and that's all there's to it. And I'm happy and I'm proud that I have endorsements from almost all the labor unions. Teachers associations are endorsing me, and I think last year I got the chamber. I was a champion of business, so I work with everybody, and I try. And I think my business, the ratio every year is in the 70s and 80s now. I'm not hurting labor, and labor always gives me extremely high rating because I'm for 'em. And I'm glad and I'm proud of that. That from Lake County, I'm there, and I'm a lot like they are. I mean, I'm not a Republican, but I realize that you got to have business and the working people. Each one of us will benefit off each other. And we all can't be, one can't be successful and one's going to be groping, and that's the problem right now with wages.
Okay. The obvious question the voters are going to be asking is, what's the difference between you and your opponent?
I really, well, it's a tough question. I really don't know him very well. But like I stated, I have the experience, and I worked all my life, and I'm glad of it. It makes me feel good, and I still have that burning in my belly to fight for the people, and I'm smart enough to know what's right and what's wrong and do the right thing. I'm very proud of my reputation there. You know, I'm a Democrat, and of course I'm not getting everything, but I honestly feel that I have the respect of the Republican senators there. And I work hard at it because I know many times we have some problems with our reputation. And I've been there 20 or maybe 25 years, I don't even remember. But I've never shamed us, and I've always worked hard, and I've gotten some good bills through. I've helped the newspapers a couple of times on public access. I fought, I got foundation that was seeking money from the state. That was my bill. They got $14 million back, and it of course made me popular with a lot of people. I have a bill right now trying to stop voter fraud, which nobody seems to. They don't take voter fraud very serious, and actually that's stealing from the people the right for good government. And they say, well, to go back, I think to 2003, 23 or 24 people got indicted for vote fraud. And the sad part is only one that I know of got a jail sentence, and I keep wondering what the heck was wrong with him. All the others got away doing nothing. It's not a super serious crime, but I look at it as a crime. And what it would do would be that whoever gets convicted can't work for the city or for 2 years. At least that's a little punishment. And that'll make them think before they do anything. And I'm sure someone's going to put in, if they turn in the politician or the boss, they'll get that 2 years off. But it's something that has to be done. And I passed some voter, I think I helped the schools and everybody that on referendum, the vote. A referendum always, like for the school, was always at the bottom of the thing, and so sometimes it's a 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th page. Well, I passed a legislation, I think a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, where all the referendums would be right at the top of this thing. And you get more people, they see it, they vote earlier. And I got to admit, the political parties didn't like it, but they voted for it because it's good for the schools. It makes people more aware. And I did quite a bit, quite frankly. It's hard to remember everything. It's like a perpetual thing. You get done, then you go to interim study committees, and I'm on 8 different committees. That's a lot. And I keep up with it, and I go to Indianapolis quite a bit, especially in the summer. I'm sometimes there 2-3 days a week. So it's a hard job, but it's a gratifying job because I know I'm helping the people in my community, and it's something I've always wanted to do, and I intend to do just as much. And I'm not going to slack off because there's too much to do, and I'm going to work at it real hard. That's all I have, is to work hard.
One of those interim study committees is looking at the casino industry, which
Right.
has been shedding jobs over the past several years.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you do differently?
Well, there's 2 things we're going to have to do. I don't think I would support it because it's going to happen. It's going to bring, I hope, more money into Lake County. But of course, it's going to affect some of the boats that are here. But they're going to need help because Illinois, they've been waiting so long, but sooner or later they're going to get a boat, and that's going to hurt our business. So we've got to do something to ensure that the gaming industry can at least, stay in the state with us and be able to make some profits. So we get so many taxes from them, it's unbelievable.
So the question is, do you reduce taxes on the casinos? Do you grant land-based gambling?
Well, I think the land base is gonna happen, and I would find no reason to say no. I mean, it's just like any business. There's McDonald's on one corner, next door is Burger King, and they both survive, and I'm sure the land base, it'll survive, and so will the others. But it's going to be a very competitive situation, and we're going to really have to help them out because they're very important to us and our tax base.
Okay. Is there anything we didn't ask that we should have asked?
Just if I'm a nice guy or not. No, this interview is very good, and it's important to me because I want people to know who I am and what I am. I watched the interview, of course, with my opponent, and I get around a lot, and I'm telling you, I go nowhere that I go to that someone doesn't come up to me and start talking to me. And after all these years, I never had a lot of money to run campaigns, so I've gone to every doing and every organization and every political thing and meetings, and that's what made me what I am today. And I never had a big sponsor or a lot of money. It's just that I enjoy people. My wife really helps me out a lot. We go together to almost everything, and I'm happy, she's happy, and I feel I'm contributing quite a bit. I've protected my district. I've been a watchdog for my district, and I've been an innovator where I've passed bills that I've even had bills stolen from me. So after a Republican come up to me and he says, "Will you go on this bill with me?" And I says, "What is the bill?" And honest to God, this happened. He says, "Well, you should know. You've had it here for 4 years. Had the one about transparencies and on money." And I laughed. I says, yes, I'll help you. So, of course, there were others that same thing. I had like 3 bills one time that I initiated, but they were nice enough to put me down as co-sponsor, sometimes 3rd and 4th, but nevertheless, it's to get it done. That's what counts. And I've done some good, and I'm proud of that.
Okay. Well, I'm afraid that's all the time we have for this endorsement interview with Frank Mrvan, the incumbent in the 1st District for the State Senate. Thank you for viewing.